It's my show. Hi everybody. I'm Akita Tail. I'm here on audio. This is my friend, Ian.
Hi.
I'm not going to say his last name because we know that the Dark One is after him.
Obviously, I'm the Dragon Reborn.
Maybe we're both. So what we're doing here today is we're talking about Wheel of Time. We're going to go through it one episode at a time. We just got done watching the first one.
And I have read the books, and you have not.
That's true. I have not read the books. I have only heard good things. Obviously, Wheel of Time is well known as a classic. Do you have just, like, general background information you want to give about the series?
Let's start with any questions you might have about the world in general.
Okay.
That you might have.
Okay, so this is me approaching from episode 1, just because as a person who writes fantasy, I do like to pay attention to world building and how it's done, what's left out, and what is described, how much, how long, if I feel it's too heavy-handed or if it's too light. In this case, I don't know if I'm really the person to judge, but I can just convey what I feel as a person who absorbs world building information. So I will say, one of the opening scenes is like, women and they're chasing a guy and they're on horses and he's not on a horse. He and his friend are like bloody and they're like running and the guy's like, oh, you gotta keep running, and then they both fall down and one of the guys looks up at the horses. He's like, don't hurt us. And one of the women on the horses is like, what do you mean you're the only one here? And he looks crazy because there's no one else. It was only one guy. He was talking to what I believe would be a figment of his imagination. And then they're like, what we're doing to you is a kindness. Basically, inverse sexism in the world of fantasy, somehow revolving around magic. But my issue with the scene was, just watching it initially, not that it wasn't entertaining, because it was. But, like, they stop him and they're like, what we're doing for you is good. And he's like, don't do this. I don't know what this is. They never describe it. And apparently, they do some kind of magic to him, but it's not really shown the same way that magic later in the story is, like at the climactic fight in the end. So I was like, okay, sexism against men exists, there's magic, and bad ladies, great. So I guess I just started a bit confused with that.
Yeah, okay, so, the first thing we should talk about that is, yes, in this world, women are kind of the dominant gender for the most part.
Okay.
And that is because, in relation to this guy who is running, in this world, men who channel the one power, or magic as it's referred to, are destined to go insane and die. Preferably taking out as many people with them as possible.
Oh.
And this is because thousands of years ago, in magic, there are two sides of it, the male half and the female half, called Sayadin and Sayadar. And Sayadin, the male half, in the war against the Shadow, was tainted by the Dark One, so now men can't use it without endangering themselves, going insane, and killing a bunch of people. So now, the women of the Aes Sedai, magic users, Aes Sedai of the Red Aja, are in charge of hunting down men who can channel and performing what is called a gentling of them, which is effectively cutting them off from the one power entirely, which doesn't kill them necessarily, but they usually lose the will to live after that.
Okay, so I gotta cut in. So as a men's rights activist, I really dislike that they did this. I'm just kidding. But so what you're saying now is cool. I wish I would have known that because, as you know, from episode 1 so far, nothing about the world building told me any of that. Wait, so how was this information revealed to you as the reader? Was this like, prologue, this is what's up? Or was it like, kind of drip fed? Like, how did you figure this out? Did you read
the
Wikipedia?
prologue of the first book, which is called The Eye of the World, by the way, takes place like thousands of years ago, with the first dragon, having just defeated the Shadow, is now wandering around his castle, calling out to his wife, who he doesn't realize he has just killed. And one of his enemies shows up and starts gloating to him, and he's like, "Oh, a guest. Ileana, my wife, where are you?" And the guy just looks down at his dead wife and is like, "You're already crazy." So he heals him just enough to see what he's done, and they kind of go on this expositional speech about how this has happened before, and it's happened 1,000 times before. It will happen 1,000 times more because the Wheel of Time wills it. And then the dragon, whose name is Luce Theron Telamon, goes out into his yard in grief and just channels as much of the one power as he can and creates this huge explosion, which in turn creates the largest mountain in the world, which becomes known as Dragon's Peak, I believe.
Hey, yo, in universe, Mount Everest.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's sick.
So you kind of, from that, you kind of get a sense that men can't channel anymore.
Okay. Like, it's bad. Like, maybe
Yeah.
don't let men do this.
Yeah, and it starts what's called the breaking of the world, which is this kind of cataclysmic event that causes continents to drift apart and mountains to rise out of it. Basically, it's another continental drift.
Okay.
Basically.
But that's, like, caused by human action.
Yes. And also, this is planet Earth, by the way.
Okay.
In fact, at the end of the episode, Moraine says this story takes place in the Third Age. In the book, it's heavily implied that the First Age is present day.
Oh! You know what? I actually really love that. Creatively, I love thinking about fantasy worlds that could derive from a world that was our own. Like, you know, Adventure Time. The land of Oo takes place after a nuclear apocalypse and magic happens and now there are princesses. Creatively, I really love that. So, that's really cool. You know, when you say Third Age, it brings to mind Lord of the Rings, you know, classic fantasy stuff that lots of people are familiar with. But again, so all that stuff that you were saying about, oh, there's a guy, there's a house, there's a dead wife, he makes a mountain. Where in there did you learn, like, all of this stuff about, like, this is what the wizards do, and they're ladies, and they say this, and there's a red and a white. Like, where do you learn that in the story?
Well, you kind of learn it, like, gradually throughout the story. Just from the prologue, you learn that, like, something has happened to magic, men can't use it anymore, and now bad shit's about to happen.
You gotta let them have, like, a little magic as a treat.
Yeah. And also, here's a little known fact about the books. There are 14 in total, and out of 14 books, there are no fewer than 2,782 named characters.
What?
Whoa, 2,000 characters?
Yep, and out of those 2,000, 148 of them are POV characters.
148 different POVs across only 14 books?
Yeah, the books are pretty thick, though. They're each like 1,000 pages almost.
Have you ever read Dune?
Yes.
How do you think of Dune's POV structure in comparison to what you've read of The Wheel of Time?
Dune was way more straightforward. Like,
Okay.
now that I think about it, like, there were a lot of, like, side characters that I don't remember from the series.
You know, you saying that Dune's POV action was straightforward makes me kind of afraid of reading The Wheel of Time. Because so many people already have issue with Dune. I thought it was done really great. I really thought Frank Herbert... I never read anything like it, where somebody could switch from V basically between sentences. I thought that was sick. I've never seen that before. So how does The Wheel of Time do it?
It's kind of broken up, well, not by chapters so much, but, like, at the end of every, like, maybe... not paragraph, but like section of chapters, like,
Okay.
it's like a change of perspective usually.
And is it, like, in chronological order, or is it you relive events through different people's eyes?
It's mostly chronological. There's one prequel book called New Spring, but that's basically the only shift in chronology that happens.
But bringing it back to the red and white motifs, you said something about, like, whatever, like, the male and the female, and, like, what both can or can't do, and how they complement each other. I remember distinctly one of the main eye-popping visuals from episode 1 was the helper of the wizard lady. I'm sorry, I don't know their names yet. He goes
Lan. Yes.
Lan. He goes into the woods, and he sees like a bunch of goats or a bunch of like herd animals, and they're all slaughtered, but they're in the shape of like a half of yin and yang.
Yes,
which is a symbol that we're familiar with.
That is referred to as the dragon's tooth in this series.
The one half of it, or the combined
The one
shape?
half of it.
Okay, so was that red or was that white? That was the red, right?
Well,
Because it was
you
dead,
mean in
dead animals.
it was dead animals, but
Yeah.
like referring to like the colors of the Aes Sedai,
Mm-hmm.
like they all serve like one cause, but they all have like different jobs. Like the Reds are in charge of hunting down men who can channel. Moraine is part of the Blue Aja, who is basically serving great causes. So she's kind of like the Gandalf of this series.
Is that the main witch lady that we saw?
Yes, Moraine.
Oh, okay, and they're color coded. I didn't even get to differentiate in my mind that there was a difference between the women on horseback from one scene and this lady. I was just like, oh, they're all magic ladies. Some are meaner than others, I guess.
Yes. And continuing through the episode, we'll start with Egwene's initiation in the book, getting pushed into the river.
Yeah,
That does not happen in the books. At least not like that.
yeah. So I look, it was shot really beautifully. I liked it. I want to be in a river. I want to be. I want to go like to the lazy river at Six Flags Agawam.
Yeah.
But like, I didn't know why or what it did. Like this, like the story so far at least hasn't really like rationalized why that had to happen or what it did for her. She got a braid and then she went for a swim. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, the braid is like a symbolic of becoming a woman in the Two Rivers.
Okay.
That becomes a thing. Nynaeve, the
wisdom.
The wisdom, yes. She in the books, whenever she's anxious, she's always like tugging on it the whole time.
Okay.
So she never undoes that braid. I don't think ever in the series. So she's very much someone who wants to be taken seriously as a woman and as well.
Nynaeve or Egwene.
Egwene. And
you'll have to keep correcting me. I'm not gonna remember her.
Nynaeve never undoes her braid. Egwene does.
Hey, yo, what happened? Like, so at the end of episode 1, Nynaeve is like dragged away by Trollocs.
Okay, that doesn't happen in the book either. But
is she like? Well, I'm like you don't want to spoil for me what happens in further episodes, but like it's implied that she died or she says she's gone. But when you're dragged into the orange haze by a troll-looking being and everybody's crying, you kind of assume you're dead.
You would assume so, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Moving on to the other characters, biggest difference for me was Perrin, the blacksmith, is not married yet in the books.
Okay.
The characters in the books are they're like 19 or something, I think, but
okay.
they're in like mindset. They're definitely more kids. Like Ran and Egwene sleep with each other in the show.
Mm-hmm.
Does not happen in the books that way. They're not together. They're kind of like a almost like an arranged marriage kind of thing, but they are very much into each other.
Kind of like puppy love.
Kind of, yeah. And Ran in the books has a hard time asking her to dance, let alone sleep with her. So,
so this is a big character elevation moment for him.
Yes.
Okay.
And Matt, the other boy with the two sisters, he did not come from a broken family in the books. He was more like a prankster kind of thing.
Okay.
And so he did have sisters in the books too, but they weren't like a huge part of his character. So I like that.
So I want to clarify because it like by the end of episode 1, we're obviously like we're on our journey now. We're probably not going to go back to the village. So I wonder if you know. So what is exactly like the relationships happening in his family? Kind of implied from what I observed. Like that's not his dad. The woman that no. Yeah. So the man that his mom is with is his dad, yes. But he looks after the kids, and then the parents both kind of suck and they hate each other, and that relationship and that fracturing kind of the fallout lands on the shoulders of the big brother who takes care of the sisters. Is that right?
Yes, but it was not like that in the book. He had parents and two sisters, but they were rarely like referenced or brought up. He was just kind of like the prankster kid. He would like play tricks on someone, and everyone would always like look at him like, you did it.
Okay, so what I'm seeing then in terms of adaptation from what you're describing, because you can see like he genuinely loves and worries about his sisters, but at the same time, because of his age and because of his youth, he's also resentful of the fact that he has to take on that responsibility. And as you see the characters all ride off, you can kind of see, like, darkness on his face. He resents having to go on this quest. He loves his sisters, but resents that he has to look after them. Like, he's very resentful about his station in life.
Yes, and this is a change I actually don't mind that much, because it's been said that certain characters, Matt included, are severely underdeveloped in the first few books. Mm-hmm. So I think this is a good change and a good way to kind of develop him early on.
Yeah, and in terms of how that character is developed and set up, because you can see that he has he's like a prankster on the surface and a gambler and a person with bad habits, or somebody that people generally don't trust, or maybe something like that. But there is, because of that aspect, like, even in the middle of, like, a fight in the village, he goes out and risks his life for his sisters. Beneath that, he is a good man who wants to do the right thing. And now, as an audience member, I'm like, I don't want to see him fall to darkness. So, yep. Low-key, I'm really rooting for Matt not to be bad. Be good. Be good, Matt.
Yes. And moving on, Lorraine's entrance into the village, I hated that scene, I'm not gonna lie, because
really? Okay.
She just, first of all, Lan comes in and is like, this is Moraine, and then she walks in, talks to the bartender, flexes her ring, and they instantly know that she's an Aes Sedai. That is not what happens in the book. She kind of sneaks in to the village and starts talking to people about, like, the kids and who's what age and whatnot. She never tells anyone that she's an Aes Sedai, because they're supposed to be very subtle.
Not an overwhelming, like, power.
Yes.
Okay.
Speaking of Moraine, so she and Lan have a bath together, which I thought was extremely uncomfortable, because they do not have any sort of romantic or sexual relationship at all.
You never just, like, take naked baths with friends, man?
No?
Like
when I was a kid, maybe, but not like not as an adult or anything.
I guess you're just another puritanical American who can't open his mind to just having baths with friends. Like, I would take a bath with somebody if they could warm it up with magic for me.
I suppose. I mean, teach their own.
Yeah, and we didn't have to have sex. That would be great. You know, maybe they like it like that. So, in the book, there's no romance or whatever. He just seems like, whatever, like his knight, basically.
Yeah, her bodyguard, basically.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions from here on out? I still have some notes, but I just want you to get a chance to talk.
Sure. Yeah. What's up with the... I just want to highlight a line that I really liked or didn't like. It's like, the Shade has Trollocs with him, dozens of them. When I heard that line, I don't know what the Shade is. I don't know what a Trolloc is. When you hear a line like that, you're like, bro, this is fantasy writing. This is somebody, like, we literally in the next scene learn what a Trolloc is. It's just like a scary troll that actually does things bad, because normally, because you know what I really liked in this? Like, there are consequences to the violence. Yes. Because in so many fantasies, it's all, like, played down. Like, the first encounter is like, oh, we beat them and no one died. It's like, nah, people get gored, people are being torn into, and there's nothing the heroes can do. The heroes are staring. The leader of the village gets bodied. She can't do anything. The only person who can do something is literally one of the most powerful people, I guess, in the world. So the stakes are really high in terms of how much damage this kind of stuff does to the ordinary people of the world. And I feel like other fantasy series have a hard time showing that. Like, I'm not saying that I wanted to see the Shire get destroyed, but I kind of wanted to see the Shire get destroyed so we could have that tension. You know what I mean? Maybe it wasn't the story for it, but I feel like it adds that extra narrative oomph. You know what I mean?
Yes, well, first of all, it's a Fade, not a Shade.
Okay, a Fade.
Their proper name is a Murdral, which is that horseman with no face that we saw.
They called him an eyeless?
The Faceless, yes. And despite the fact that they have no eyes, in the books their gaze can, like, paralyze you, like, with fear.
How are you gonna look at me with no eyes, though?
They can somehow.
So they're like spirit eyes. They're like fake eyes. They're like
kind of, yeah,
mind eyes.
And as for the actual attack on the village, In the books, it wasn't nearly that bad as it is in the show.
Okay.
Like, there are a couple injuries, except for what happened at Rand's house. That was almost spot on for what happens to the book.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
it was sick. It's sword time.
Yes. It wasn't nearly as bad. In fact, they only actually attacked, like, his house, the blacksmith's house, and Matt's house. Which is how they realized, like, oh yeah, they're after you guys.
Oh, yeah. Because literally you see the magic lady following them around, but it's not like those kids specifically. She's like skulking around town. So by the end of the episode, she's like, "It's you four." I'm like, "How did you know that?" Were there any establishing shots that said that that's how you figured it out, or like you literally looked at one girl and were like, maybe?
Yeah, and they're exclusively after the boys in the book. Egwene kind of volunteers to go with them, and there's another character who was in the books during the scene who does not show up yet. Is Tom Maryland, the Gleeman, who we do not meet until episode 3 of the show.
Oh.
He also comes with them, but we'll talk about him during episode 3.
There was a guy named Tom who died, though.
Yes, it was not him, though.
Different Tom. Okay. Yeah. I guess in all those, whatever, how many is it? 4,000 recurring characters? There's gotta be more than one named Tom.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so... Let's see, what else do I have?
What is your passionate thing? Like, if you could say one thing about how this episode made you feel as a person who's read the books, how like, what is the first thing if you could only say one thing?
First would be excited, because I think it did a good job setting the pace, which unfortunately isn't maintained throughout the rest of the series, but we'll get there.
Okay.
I was excited when this first came out. It was the first 3 episodes out first, so I was excited to watch the next one, and yeah, that last passage that Moraine gives at the end of the episode is that passage starts out all the books, so you know, about the wheel time, leaves and wills and ages come and go and so forth. All the books start out with that passage, so I was happy that they included that.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of, like, macro level world building, I was really surprised that they mentioned the Wheel of Time, like episode 1, like, oh, you said it, it's in the name of the show. Mm-hmm. You know, that classic Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the TV screen. But I really like that idea, so you probably know a little bit more, and I'm sure more will be revealed throughout the series, but the central conceit of how this world works is that people are reincarnated. Somebody's spirit always comes back to the world of the living, but when and where is up to the mystical Wheel of Time, which we cannot see.
Yes, and of course the whole premise of the show is the dragon has been reborn again.
And the dragon good or the dragon bad?
Yes.
Dragon good because it fights the shadow, which is also reborn.
The prophecy of the dragon is something along the lines of, well, first of all, it's exclusively a man, because that's a lot scary. If it could be a woman, then it wouldn't be like as frightening to people, because men can't channel, and it says the dragon will either break the world again or save it. So it could go either way.
Okay, because if it was like a woman, it would be like, okay, maybe they have more control over their magic.
Yeah, and of course the main character's like, one of us is a dragon. That may not be a good thing for us.
Yeah, that would automatically like sow discord, I guess.
Yes.
In the group dynamic. Yeah. So the dragon is bad?
Yes and no. It could be either way. That's why everyone is so like frightened about it. In fact, they didn't mention this yet, but throughout the series or throughout the ages, there have been men who are false dragons, who claim to be the dragon reborn, but are not.
Okay, and that's the thing that the women witches do. They like find out for sure.
Yes.
So what is it that like? Because it doesn't say in the episode how she knows. Is it like what?
She said that
the magic is telling her.
There was a Aes Sedai who was blind but could see, like, make prophecies. She told me the dragon's been born again.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how she knows.
Okay.
She's been searching ever since.
Okay. And then there must be some sense in her that's telling her it's one of these 4 kids.
Yes.
And she's just, like, whatever, not sure which one. That's crazy, though, that it's, like, split between 4 people. I think that's a really interesting dynamic, because normally when you have a chosen one narrative, it's like, it's that guy.
Yes.
Or at most, it's like, maybe it's that guy. But it never, like, 4. Like, that makes it so much more interesting in terms of, well, how does that make them feel? Are they friends? Are they not going to be friends? Are they going to fight about it? What are the fights going to reveal? You know? Mm-hmm. So there's just a lot of interesting things you can do with that narratively. So I like that. But overall, yeah, I thought, slow start, but by the end, I was really impressed with how they set everything up in terms of everybody's got a motivation, right? So we got our main boy. He's like, oh, my dad had a sword, I have a sword, I'm gonna be a generic protagonist. Mm-hmm. And then we got a girl who's like, I'm gonna maybe be a witch. Maybe that'll be my thing. And then the third guy's like, I like my little sisters, but I resent everything that's happening to me. And the fourth one was like, I killed my wife.
Yeah. Well, like I said, he didn't have a wife yet in the books, but he does, at some point down the line, accidentally kill someone, and that kind of becomes part of his story arc. So I thought this was an interesting change.
Yeah, that's something that we were remarking on when we were literally just watching it. Like, they were in the heat of the moment, they're both fighting a Trolloc each, and then they lash out at each other, and his blade lands first, and he's like, oh, wait, that's not an enemy combatant, I've just murdered my girlfriend.
Yeah. We're both like, yeah, why does that happen more often?
Yeah, because in, like, so many series there are chaotic battle scenes, and it's just like, oh, it just so happens that they didn't kill each other. It's like, well, thank you for finally giving it to me. Yeah. I didn't know how much I wanted to see it until it happened. So, I like that. Good job.
Yeah.
Wife dead. Oh, I gotta hear more about this, life stuff. So, the way, the reason that it's so important and she's so cool and so magical and so powerful, we don't even know the limits of her magic, but I'm sure that'll be revealed. So there's white stuff that comes to her from, like, all different corners of the town and the village. She can channel pretty much every natural force to her whim to do magic and attack. So is that life force? What is that?
It is referred to as, the one power, which is, like, they always refer to reality as, like, the pattern, like the tapestry of life.
Okay.
Which they kind of, when in casting, is always referred to as, like, weaving. So it's like, well,
the threads.
Weaving, using different powers. Like, there's, air, water, earth, fire, and spirit, which they kind of use in tangent with each other.
They got lightning. They got
yeah, they did use. I don't know if that's ever happened in the books. Now that I think about it, I don't know. Anyway,
we got every element.
Yep.
We just gotta get bloodbending in there.
Yes, we do.
Avatar light, pretty much. So, I'm wondering about other magic users. So they're mostly women. The men who use it eventually go crazy. So I'm also gathering that the White Tower is kind of like a metaphorical but literal representation of what we talk about in the real world as an ivory tower. When we accuse people of being at the top of their ivory tower, we're talking about people in academia who are divorced from their material conditions, maybe look down upon other people who are perhaps more educated, and the way that class interacts with people's positions and what they know. So, the White Tower, I'm assuming, functions very similarly, because there is a passage in the episode where they talk about, oh, there was this one lady, and she went and she walked for months, and because she had rags on, she had a peasant accent, you guys didn't let her in, and now she was mad, and that made me mad, so I'm mad at you right now.
Yeah, about that. In the books, the Aes Sedai would never turn away any woman who could channel. Like, they may not allow her to become a full Aes Sedai, but they would at least train them enough to learn how to use their powers and stuff. And the White Tower is a literal white tower. It's a place. It's like the headquarters of the Aes Sedai.
Uh-huh. And it's one spot. There's not multiple branches. There's no franchises.
No, it's just one place.
There's no drive-through.
No.
Can only go to one. There's no multiple locations yet.
There's no sister locations.
There's no sister location. Exactly. And that's what they call other members of that place, right? Sisters?
Yes.
Cool. Is there anything you want me to be paying attention to as we move on to other episodes?
Kind of just like the dynamic of the characters. Also, this hasn't been addressed yet, but dreams are also a big thing in this story. That'll come up eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And just, I don't know, that's it. Pay attention to the world building.
Okay. I will say that in terms of my barometer, so if, like, over here is, like, too little and over here is too much, I would say that it's probably in the too little world building camp. I don't know what's going on, what's important. I know generally sort of things, but everything that you've just told me is really cool, and I wish that there had been ways that the episode told me a little bit more, like men going crazy with magic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can see that manifesting in a guy running away with somebody else, except, oh, ha, JK, he's crazy. But in the episode, he just looks like a man running for his life, which he is. And we don't really see the aftermath. And you said that what happens is people don't want to live anymore. So if we had just maybe, for a couple extra shots in that scene, lingered on what happened to him after, like they turn, their horses start to walk away, and the guy is just standing there like slake-mouthed, and the camera pans back, and they just leave him there like a living corpse, then, then I have some idea of what that does to people. But as it stands, I'm like, oh, they just hunted that guy down, that was mean.
Yeah.
Do you agree with me?
Yes, but I actually know what's going to happen in the series, so
okay.
Some of your complaints will be resolved. So
Okay. Yeah, I guess just from my uneducated perspective, that's where it stands for now. But those have been our thoughts, and we will see you guys back for episode 2. Let us know if you liked this or if you hated it. Also, you can tell me that. It'll make me cry, but you can do that. You are allowed. It's a free country, at least where we're recording. And for now, maybe different in 2023. We're heading in that direction. But thanks for watching. Say goodbye, Ian.
Goodbye, everyone. I'll see you next episode.
That's right, next episode. Who knows when that'll be? We'll try. Bye, everybody.